Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nurfatima. I'm from Class B English Education B 2019. I will explain about the author and his literary work that I have analyzed. The author is Caspar David Friedrich, and his work is Finding and Digital the Stages of Life. We start from introduction. In this first point, I will analyze the personal life of Caspar David Friedrich, a traditional painter of the German Romantic movement. This is now considered the most important painter, a painter and draftsman. His main interest as an artist is the reflection on nature, and his often symbol works anti-classical attempts to convey the spiritual experience of life. Next, founded in movement. Caspar David Friedrich, born 5 September 1774, Caspar, Swedish Pomerania, modern-day German. Did 7 May 1814, age 85, Dresden, Saxony, movement Romanticism. And next, parents and family Caspar David Friedrich. Sophie Dorothea Friedrich and Adolf Gottlieb are the parents of Caspar David Friedrich, was born as the sixth of the 10 children. His mother, Sophie Dorothea Buckley, died in 1781 when Caspar David was only 7 years old. At the age of 13, Caspar David was his brother, John Christopher, fell through the ice of the frozen lake and sank. Several reports suggest that Johann Christopher gave up trying to save Caspar David, who was also in danger on the ice. His sister Elizabeth died in 1782, while a second sister, Maria, died of typhus in 1791. Next, personal life Caspar David Friedrich. Caspar David Friedrich, 5 September 1774 until 7 May 1840, was a landscape painter of the 19th century German Romantic movement, of which he is now considered the most important of all. A painter and draftsman, Friedrich is best known for allegorical landscapes, which later depicts contemplative figures shadowed by the night sky, misty morning, branch trees, and Gothic ruins. His main interest as an artist is contemplation of nature, and his often shame. In 1790, Friedrich began studying art with Johann Gottfried Christoph at the University of Greifswald, and literature and aesthetic with Swedish professor Thomas Torek. Torek was interested in contemporary British aesthetic and taught Friedrich to distinguish between this spiritual and physical, inner A, with the other A disliked. Friedrich entered the prestigious Copenhagen Academy in 1794, where he studied under teachers such as Christian August Lorentzen and landscape painter Jens Juel. This artist was inspired by the storm and drag movement, and represented a midpoint between the dramatic intensity and expressiveness of the budding Romantic aesthetic and the waning of neoclassical form. Mood is the most important and influence drawn from chords such as Icelandic area and Asian legends, and Nordic folklore. A gifted student, Friedrich began his education at the academy by making plaster copies of antique sculptures before continuing to draw from life. He was particularly interested in 17 country dot landscapes painting, which he accessed at the Royal Image Gallery of Copenhagen. In 1790, in 1798, he settled permanently in Dresden. He often draws work, especially naturalistic and topographical, in India in watercolor and sepia in color when he finally took up oil painting. But it may have been after the age of 30. Landscapes is the subject of his case, inspired by frequent trips starting in 1801 to the Baltic coast, Bohemia, the Rhine Mountains, and the Harz Mountains, based largely on northern German landscapes. His paintings depict forests, hills, harbors, morning mist, and other like effects based on natural observation. Today's paintings, a model on sketches and studies of scanned flies, such as the cliff art regions and around Dresden or Elf. The study itself is made almost exclusively in pencil, and profits topographical inform painter the subtle atmospheric effects characteristic of Friedrich. Roughness is imported from memory. This effect will ultimately have much to do with a depiction of light, sun, and moon, lighting on clouds and water, optical phenomena specific to the Baltic coast and which have not been previously painted. Next, the stages of life. The stages of life, German Die Lebensstufen, is an allegorical oil painting of 1835 by the German Romantic landscape painter Caspar David Friedrich. Complete just 5 years before his death, this picture, like many of his work, from a meditation but on his own mortality and on the transience of life. Painting is set on a shore, and so in the foreground an aged man with his back turned to the view walking toward two adults and two children on a hilltop overlooking a harbor. The figures are echoed by five ships saw in the harbor, each at a different distance from the shore, and allegorical reference to the different stages of human life, to the end of a journey, to the closeness of death. Okay, next, characters in the painting The Stages of Life. The figures have been identified as Friedrich and his family. The aged man is the artist himself. The small boy is his young son Gustav Adolf. The young girl is his daughter Agnes. The older girl is his daughter Emma, and the man in the top hat is his nephew Johann Heinrich. Although many of Friedrich's paintings were set in imagined landscapes, the stages of life is recognizably located at Utkirch, near Friedrich's birthplace of Greifswald in today Northeastern Germany. Okay, next, contents of the story, the stages of life. the paintings depicts a bathing sea far in the dust. On the sea door, sailing ship returning home can be seen. The largest ship in the middle has already begun to dry in its sails. Two smaller sailboats have at most reached land. The one on the right heads directly for the group of 5 people on the bank, who by their colors are recognizable as townspeople. In their midst sits a boy who holds up a Swedish banner, while the girls beside him reach for it. To their right sit women who lean toward both children with her right hand raised. These 5 figures correspond to the 5 ships visible in the harbor bayou. The 3 groupings of figures, one each man, 2 adults, and 2 children, echoed the positions of the ship at various distance from the shore as allegorical of the stages of life and cloudness to death. The central ship is thought to represent the mother, while father insert 2 small boats reference to the 2 children have only just begun their voyage and still remain in slow, clear water. Friedrich's hometown, Great Swar, belonged to the Duchy of Pomerania until 1630, when the area switched of Sweden as Swedish Pomerania. In 1815, it became part of the Pomerania province of Prussia. The painting shows Friedrich's youngest daughter Agnes Adelheid and son Gustav Adolf holding the Swedish banner 20 years after Great War surrendered to Prussia. The view covers a peninsula in front of the Baltic Sea. Outside of Sweden, Friedrich baptized his son Gustav Adolf after Swedish King Gustav Adolf. Swedish writers for Daniel Friedrich was Pomeranian and considered himself half Swedish. Next, Caspar David Friedrich's painting relate to his work entitled The Stages of Life. Okay, next. In keeping with the romantic aesthetics of the time, Friedrich intended his paintings to the function fairly in visual trance, and thus he was conscious that the detail given to his work were not overly descriptive and evocative. It is likely that the relatively little title The Stages of Life was not given by the artist himself, but that the work was instead renamed during a revival of interest the artist in the late 19th or early 20th century. Next, we say that I got from Caspar David Friedrich with his work entitled The Stages of Life. Caspar David Friedrich, a great painter in the Romantic era from Germany. The painting The Stages of Life covers the journey of his life stages identified as Caspar David Friedrich and his family, nor the birthplace of Friedrich. In conclusion, we learn from his painting entitled The Stages of Life, although he is separated from his family and when his parents died, he remained strong and always went toward developing his paintings. Okay, next, and this is the link where I look for reference. Okay, I think that's all. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.